Hey guys, welcome back to The Mind of Brandon, and welcome back to another Sunday of Science and Spirituality.
Today I want to address the existence of God and why I believe that there had to be a God behind existence.
Hold on a second. If I understand you correctly, it sounds like you're saying that you think that God existed prior to existence. Dude, I just started watching your video and it's already off to a really shitty start.
Today I want to address the existence of God and why I believe that there had to be a God behind existence, and why it had to be the biblical God, the God that the Bible talks about.
Oh, you mean the God that created heaven and earth and plants and animals in only 6 days, then resting on the seventh, he formed man from the dust of the ground, fashioned woman from a rib in the man's side, and then put them in a garden with a talking snake and mystical trees that grow magical fruits. I don't even need to say anything else, do I?
And so there's a lot to talk about here actually, so I'm not going to be able to address everything, but I'll do my best to address the main points, at least some of the main points that I know of, because I'm not all-knowing.
Well, if you ever want me to believe in the God of the Bible, you're going to have to at least provide a really good explanation for the talking snake.
So, in the Bible says that the universe, or at least the heavens, came into existence. The Bible explains the heavens to mean either the sky or the heavens space, which means like where the stars are located. In Genesis, it refers to the heavens as the stars and everything that we can see that's out there. And so the Bible says this had a beginning, that nothing existed before God made it to come into existence.
Well, hold on a second. Where does it say that? It certainly doesn't say that in the cosmocentric creation account. In fact, it's established within the first 2 verses of that creation account what conditions were like at the time when God began to create the heavens and the earth. It establishes that the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and a wind from God was moving over the surface of the waters. Well, that part that says the wind of God, that's sometimes translated the Spirit of God. This is common across different ancient cultures, that the same word that can be translated as breath, wind, or air can also be translated as spirit. Because of course the air that we breathe is understood as a life force. When we die, we stop breathing, spirit leaves the body, right? But anyway, what is it that wind spirit or whatever is moving over? It's moving over the waters, the primordial waters. This is another concept that is seen commonly across different ancient cultures. This idea that prior to the creation of heaven and earth, there are these uncreated primordial waters. Okay? This is why we never see the creation of these waters in this story. They're just already there. In Babylonian mythology, these waters are associated with at least 2 or 3 different deities, the main 2 being the god Apsu and the goddess Tiamat. Apsu's name means depths, and Tiamat refers to the water. So collectively, they're associated with the deep waters. In Egyptian mythology, the primordial waters are associated with 8 different deities who come in 4 couples. Their names are Huk and Haket, Cook and Cooket, Amen and Amenet, and Nun and Nunet. If you're wondering which ones are the males, which ones are the females, just think dude and dudette, the ones that are feminine and with teeth. So, Huk and Haket, they're associated with formlessness, like we see in the Bible with the formless void. Cook and Cooket, they're associated with darkness, again, like we see in the Bible, darkness over the deep. Amen and Amenet are associated with hiddenness, and so that means they're also associated with air and wind, like the wind of God moving over the waters. And Finally, Nun and Nunet are the primordial waters themselves. So it's actually very much like what we see in the Bible.
And the Bible also says is that these heavens are expanding.
Really? Where in the Bible does it say that? That also is not found in the cosmocentric creation account. Now, don't get me wrong, I've heard this point before, and people have been able to cite where in the Bible they're getting this idea. It's later in the Bible, I don't really remember where for sure, but the passage refers to when God stretched out the heavens, which, of course, does not mean what you're about to insinuate it means.
But the heavens are expanding. Sound familiar? Well, if it doesn't, then I'd recommend reading into the Big Bang Theory, which tells us that not only did the universe of space-time come into existence, but that it is expanding.
Right, the Big Bang Theory explains why the universe is expanding, but ancient people didn't have the same conception of the universe that we have today. You gotta keep in mind that in antiquity, the universe was understood in a more narrow sense as heaven and earth. That's a relatively flat and disc-shaped earth, circumimposed by the dome of heaven, both of which are floating in the sea of primordial waters. Okay? Again, this is a commonly held conception of the universe across different cultures that we see perpetuated in the Bible.
And before this expansion, there was no before, actually. A lot of people say there is no before the Big Bang.
Well, if that's what a lot of people are saying, then there's a lot of people who have some pretty outdated and irrational cosmological perspectives. Look, you gotta keep in mind that the Big Bang Theory was not originally called the Big Bang Theory. Originally it was called the hypothesis of the primeval atom. It was someone who disagreed with this hypothesis of the primeval atom who mockingly referred to it as the Big Bang Theory. But anyway, the idea here is that there's some hypothetical atom or particle that explodes, and that's what sets in motion the formation of the universe. Now, let's say it actually was an atom. If it was actually an atom, you got to keep in mind that an atom is composed of subatomic particles. Those subatomic particles are composed of elementary particles. Elementary particles are basically just, teeny tiny little waves or ripples of energy, little energy vibrations, something like that. There's, of course, different kinds of elementary particles, and they can form out in the vacuum of space because space contains energy. Vacuum energy. Now, energy, as far as we know, cannot be created, nor can it be destroyed. It can only change. Now, think about that a second. If energy cannot be created, yet it exists, that means it's always existed. So, prior to the universe, prior to the Big Bang, there already was energy in existence. There always was this pre-existing energy.
And you assume that all that exists is matter, because matter, our perception of time, is based on matter. And so a lot of people say that there was no before the Big Bang because there was no matter, there was no changing matter. And so a lot of people say that the only thing that exists is matter, the material world.
Okay, I don't know who's still saying that shit. That's some really outdated stuff right there. We've known for some time now that everything we perceive as matter, deep down inside at the most microcosmic scale possible, is really just a bunch of teeny tiny little force fields, little fields of energy.
But as faithful believers, we believe in a transcendent cause, and that after an eternity of no before, as they say it, the only possible way that the universe could have come into existence is if there was a transcending cause not dependent on the material world. Okay? So, there's only two alternatives, actually, okay? There was a transcending cause that caused matter and space-time to come into existence, or there was an infinite regression in which one cause led to another cause, led to another cause, and it just it just keeps on going. There's no end to it. It's like a loophole, I guess you could say, and it just keeps going in circles.
Energy cannot be created, nor can it be destroyed. It can only change. So, despite the fact that a universe has a beginning, the omniverse has just always existed in constant flux, always producing little quantum fluctuations, tiny little elementary particles, which of course make subatomic particles, which coalesce to form atoms.
But I argue that because of the law of decay and the laws of thermodynamics, and that the universe might one day suffer a heat death, which now we know that the universe might die by some other means, but that all heat is burning out and transforming into another form of matter. Just because a fire burns out doesn't mean that the matter that it's made out of goes out of existence. It still exists, but it can never be lit up by fire again, because heat goes away. Okay? So, given that the laws of decay and thermodynamics tells us that everything's dying out, pretty much, in a philosophical sense, then there must have been a beginning, okay? Because, if you look at our universe as it is now, you could say it's a relatively young universe because it hasn't died out already, okay? Because if the universe had always existed, it would have already died out. The universe would have already experienced a heat death.
Yeah, the laws of thermodynamics apply to the universe, and the universe has a beginning. But the universe also probably exists within a multiverse, which exists within the omniverse. And we don't know what kind of laws govern a multiverse or the omniverse, so all this stuff you've been babbling on about is actually pretty moot.
And so, given that
concept, and given that the universe came into existence through the so-called Big Bang, because no one knows exactly what the Big Bang was, one can easily assume that there had to be something beyond heat energy, beyond matter, to have caused the universe into existence. And that's where we implemented uncaused, unmoved mover, a god who is beyond the material world.
So, that's just one reason why you should believe in a god, and why it had to be the biblical god, because Buddhism doesn't take into account the Big Bang.
Neither does the Bible, and since when does the Big Bang suggest a god? Oh yeah, it doesn't. It really doesn't.
It doesn't take into account a beginning. It always assumed that there was so many souls on the world for it to work. Hinduism doesn't give any logic in this respect into how the universe came into existence, and their perceptions, their ideas are just illogical. The idea that you can make your own god out of a pond that just came naturally through the rain, that you can make a god of that pond, that's just kind of silly.
You're gonna call that silly? The Bible has a talking snake in it! A talking snake! You're trying to draw a parallel between Big Bang cosmology and some stuff in the Bible. Well, it turns out that we can actually draw a parallel between some stuff in Hinduism and some stuff in the field of quantum mechanics. Okay, in Hinduism, there's this concept called Brahman. And there's different interpretations of Brahman, but the interpretation I'm most familiar with is this idea that Brahman exists everywhere. Brahman is in everything. Everything, everybody, every god that exists is a different avatar of Brahman. Brahman taking all these different forms. Okay? That parallels with the concept of energy. Energy exists everywhere. It's in everything. Everything that we perceive as matter, deep down inside at the most microcosmic scale possible, is just tiny little bits of energy. Does that mean that the Hindu gods are all real? Of course not. And neither is the God of the Bible.
But, the whole reason why I'm a Christian is not only because of existence itself, saying that before the Big Bang there was no before, given that there was no matter, that out of that Big Bang, logic, beauty, and a sustainable universe came into existence. Everything has logic behind it, okay? People say there's chaos out there. No, there's math behind it. There is science behind it. It's not just so-called chaos.
Well, the fact that we can scientifically explain things or come up with mathematical predictions for things, and maybe sometimes we determine those predictions are true or whatever. The fact that we're capable of interpreting something to be beautiful, I don't see any of that as an indication that Christianity is the true religion or that the Christian God is the true God. I don't see how it's logical that the respiratory system is connected to the digestive system in a way that we can choke on our fucking food. Okay, I don't think that there is logic behind everything. I don't see where you're getting that. I don't see how these points in any way, shape, or form add up to Christianity's the true religion. Whatever created the universe has got to be the Christian God.
Okay, and the thing is that our perception is very limited. I've accepted this. I've accepted that our perception is limited to this dimension. There's things that we simply cannot see or cannot know.
You mean like the multiverse? We have little to no direct evidence that the multiverse exists, that there are other universes apart from our own, but it does make sense based on the pattern of evidence that is available to us that there probably are other universes, that our universe probably exists in a multiverse, because of course the big things that exist in this universe are made up of smaller things that are made up of smaller things that are made up of smaller things, all the way down to the underlying fundamental energy that exists at every single little point in space. And of course every naturally occurring thing in this universe is produced in multiples. Nothing's really unique. There's multiple galaxies and stars and planets and asteroids and comets, and the pattern does continue down to the subatomic scale. So it does make sense that there probably would be other universes and that our universe would exist in a multiverse. That makes sense based on the pattern of evidence that's available to us, despite the fact that we don't have any actual direct observable evidence of a multiverse or multiple universes. So I'm kind of picking up what you're putting down here, but at the same time, I've yet to hear a compelling argument for this Christian God that created heaven and earth in 6 days, rested on the seventh, formed man from the dust of the ground, formed woman from the rib of man, and put them in a garden with the talking snake and mystical trees that grow magical fruits.
Okay, and it's kind of illogical to assume that we should base everything on what we can personally see and know. That's kind of saying that because I am, therefore I know, or there's a saying like that. Because I am, therefore I know. And that's kind of like circular reasoning.
But I mean, I understand that's how life works. We can only base certain things on what we see. But even if you look at it that way, if you take into account what I said a while ago, then how can you not say that the only possible way is that there is something beyond space-time that can exist?
Well, I would certainly agree that there seems to be such a thing as existence beyond our own space-time, the space-time of this universe. Other universes, if they exist, would have their own space-times, and like I've said, we don't really know what kind of laws are going to govern a multiverse or the omniverse, but none of this is any indication that the God of the Bible is responsible for creating all of this.
And time, when I say time, I'm referring to the material world, okay? We don't know if time can exist beyond this material world, beyond the changing in matter. We don't know if time can exist, okay? There's several theories of time, so don't act like you know what time is.
Actually, thanks for reminding me that there's a lecture series I need to finish watching called Mysteries of Modern Physics, Time, which is taught by Professor Sean Carroll. It's one of those you can find at the greatcourses.com. I started watching it a while back. I never finished it before I sent it back to the library. So I'll have to check that out again and finish what I started. But at the same time, I don't really see how the fact that time is actually kind of a mystery. I don't see how that validates the God of the Bible.
And that that all that pertains to time is matter, because we don't know if that's true. There's a lot of things that we don't know are true, but we accept them because they help us function as a society.
Well, I've personally noticed that at least some of what people think helps us, function as a society, some of that is actually detrimental to society. It's holding us back.
And at the same time, I mean, the Bible gives us a sense of objective morals. It gives us a good sense of objective morals. The Ten Commandments, for example.
Well, you may personally feel that the Bible is giving you a sense of objective morality, but the truth is that the Bible's morality is arbitrary and subjective. Morality in general is arbitrary and subjective. There's no such thing as morally right or morally wrong. There is such a thing as factually right and factually wrong. Really, we'd be much better off just applying the scientific method for social concern as an alternative to relying on some kind of arbitrary subjective moral code.
It gives us a sense of purpose.
Okay, people can derive a sense of purpose from literally anything. Okay, you can look at anything and decide, I'm interested in learning all about that. Becoming an expert, teaching it to people, and just kind of dedicating my life to that. Right? You can do that with literally anything. For you, it appears you've chosen the Bible, or perhaps more specifically the biblical God, whatever. Right? But that doesn't make it any more likely that the biblical God is responsible for the creation of the universe that we exist in, does it?
And if you look at the world, how it works today, people are doing bad things that we consider bad, like stealing, killing, raping, and all that. And that's just more proof that people have their own perceptions and purposes in life. But when they have an objective purpose, which they cannot deny, then they have to automatically fall in line with that philosophy, which I would claim is the Bible. So, tell me what you think.
Well, I think generally when someone steals or kills or rapes or something like that, I think they generally tend to actually be of the attitude that people shouldn't commit those kinds of acts. So when they do it, they're just committing a hypocritical act, or maybe they feel like in this particular circumstance it's justified. In this particular circumstance, I don't know what else to do. In this particular circumstance, I have to. So this is part of why I'm an advocate for applying the scientific method for social concern, addressing these problems at a more technical level. Part of that means we have to ask questions. We have to ask, why does someone kill? Why does someone rape? Why do they steal? What are their motives? What conditions are generating this aberrant behavior? If we can cure the conditions that generate these aberrant behaviors, then those behaviors will cease to exist. Okay, the problem isn't that people have no direction. It's not that people have no law code to follow or something like that, no code of morality. The problem is that we have certain systems in place that are actually incentivizing people to commit acts like murder, rape, and theft. Okay? These are systemic problems. Problems within our system of government, our economic system, our system of law and politics, our education system. So it stands to reason that if we make certain changes to these systems, then we can eliminate the motivation for people to commit acts like murder, rape, and theft. For example, it's my understanding that most violent crime is poverty related. So, theoretically, if we get rid of poverty, we will get rid of most violent crime. Not all of it, but I think most of it's a good start, right? That being said, actually getting rid of poverty is, of course, easier said than done. But the reason it's easier said than done is because of these stupid archaic systems that we have in place. If someone's at an ATM machine pulling out cash and someone else comes along and kills them and takes their money, it's not too hard to figure out what the motive is. They did that for the money, right? Because we live in a system where the things we need cost us money, right? And it's not always easy to get that money, is it? You have to do a lot of hard work. Unless you're a successful entrepreneur that really knows what they're doing, right? Might not have to do much in the way of any work at all. You have other people do the work for you. Have people working for you. But most people aren't in such a privileged circumstance. Most people are just kind of getting by, slaving away day after day. So the point is that as long as we perpetuate a system in which the things we need cost us money, we're probably never going to see an end to poverty-related crimes. That is why I am an advocate of an alternative economic model known as the resource-based global economy. This is an idea originally devised by a man called Jacques Fresco. I've already talked about this in a bunch of other videos. I'll try to keep the explanation quite brief, but basically it's a system where we have declared the Earth and its resources as the common heritage of all the world's people, and we've automated all the jobs that nobody wants to do, all the jobs that people are only willing to do if you pay them. And so, through the process of automation, we're able to provide everyone all over the world with access to food, clothing, shelter, medicine, education, transportation, entertainment, plumbing, electricity, all without a price tag because you don't have to pay machines. So basically, it's theoretically possible to render the monetary system obsolete, make it so there's no point in even having money. It's unnecessary to buy, unnecessary to sell, there's just no point, right? Again, implementing such a system is easier said than done, but it can be done. We can solve the world's problems by applying the scientific method for social concern, as opposed to relying on ancient dogmas that were, handed down over the generations by ancient ignoramuses that were worshiping the wind and the moon. Let's face it, laws or moral codes, telling people, don't do this or else you're going to get in trouble. Don't do this because it's bad. It's immoral to do that, right? That can be better than nothing. It can deter people. Maybe I shouldn't do this. I don't want to get in trouble. Maybe I shouldn't do this because it's immoral, right? It's better than nothing, but it doesn't go far enough. It's not solving the problem, okay? It's not solving the problem. These problems persist despite the fact that we have laws, despite the fact that we have moral values, okay? So, these 10 commandments, thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do that, okay? It's not enough. Okay. As long as we perpetuate fucked up systems, those systems will keep fucking up the people. Fucked up people will do fucked up things. So we gotta fix the system.
I know I didn't address everything, and let me just make one point clear. God isn't illogical.
Well, actually, if God did create us so that our respiratory system and digestive system were connected in a way that we could choke on our food, that is actually pretty illogical.
God can do that which is logical, which is in his ability to do. For example, since he created space and time, he can do anything that manipulates space and time.
So, if God exists, then he should be able to solve all our problems for us, and there's no point in us even implementing a resource-based global economy. He'll just do it for us, right? Yet, that doesn't seem to be happening, does it? So where's our evidence for this God? You're really not making a compelling case, man.
Okay, and the Bible does not say that God does that which is illogical. It just doesn't say that. You're implementing your own ideas into the Bible to try to say that God doesn't exist, then you do that for who knows what reason. Perhaps you have an agenda to try to fight Christianity and whatnot. But so just I pray that you consider what I said today, and you have a blessed day.
That's it? Well, guys, there you have it. There's Jacob Pando's logic behind his God. Alright guys, that's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and share it with other people. If you're interested in watching my future videos, please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the next one. So have a good one, guys, and peace.